Revealed, a mother's touching quest to save her son leads to an incredible life-changing match. In the small town of Maplewood, whispers floated through the air, punctuated by the soft clinking of diner plates and the dim flicker of fluorescent lights. Sarah, a single mother in her late 30s, stood behind the counter, wiping down surfaces with a mix of determination and weariness etched on her face. Her heart raced with a blend of love and fear as she thought of Jake, her 17-year-old son, who faced an uphill battle against a rare medical condition requiring a life-saving transplant. Every second counted, every penny mattered. As laughter echoed from the booths, Sarah fought back tears, burying her fears deep within. The waitress apron tied around her waist felt like a second skin, but it weighed heavy with the burdens of rent, medical bills, and her son's relentless struggle. She poured coffee for a couple of regulars, forcing a smile while her mind whirled with sleepless nights and looming deadlines. One particularly quiet night, as the diner closed and the streets emptied, Sarah stumbled upon a flyer posted in a store window about a local charity known for fundraising. Its initial mission focused on veterans, but they had expanded to support families like hers facing dire circumstances. An ember of hope ignited within her. With renewed purpose, she rallied her strength, organizing bake sales and benefit concerts to raise money not just for Jake, but for families in need throughout Maplewood. Before we continue, she suddenly whispered to the half-empty room, "I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let us continue. As Sarah poured herself into this endeavor, she began to see glimpses of solidarity during the bake sales. Friends and neighbors sprang into action, their spirits rekindled by her unyielding love for Jake. But Sarah soon discovered the harsh realities lurking beneath the surface. A growing bias against families struggling to stay afloat became painfully clear as some neighbors whispered their resentment over dwindling resources. The unity she sought seemed just out of reach. In her moment of greatest despair, when her heart felt like lead, an unexpected knock at her door shifted everything. Claire, an old friend turned rival, surprised Sarah. Instead of the cold shoulder Sarah anticipated, Claire offered her assistance, leveraging her influence with key community members to support Sarah's cause. Together, they bravely confronted the hospital board, exposing the hard truth of financial barriers faced by low-income families. As the room filled with tension and tears, a ripple of empathy began to sweep through those present. Former enemies began blending into allies, united by the mission to provide care for children in need. In the face of adversity, hope blossomed within Sarah's heart, but just when the tide was turning, a call came in with news that could change everything: a potential match for Jake. Excitement surged through her veins, but fear lingered in the background, threatening to unravel the fragile resolve she had built. What sacrifices would she need to make to ensure Jake's chance at life? And would this shattered community continue to rally beside her, even as costs surged beyond their reach? The next morning felt bleak, with gray clouds hanging low in the sky as Sarah clutched her phone, replaying the potential match's details in her mind. It was a glimmer of hope, yet the weight of the implications settled heavy in her chest. She had stayed up most of the night, eyes wide open, grappling with the fear of the unknown. Jake had always been the beacon of her life. With his contagious laughter and bright ideas, he filled their small home with warmth. Now, the thought of him enduring any more pain or uncertainty tore at her heart. As she poured a cup of black coffee for herself, the bitter aroma grounded her thoughts. She had to put on a brave face for Jake, but inside, her heart ached with worry. Later that day, Sarah made her way to the hospital, determination drumming in her heart. Walking through the sterile hallways, she braced herself for the meeting with the transplant team. The faint smell of antiseptic filled the air, a reminder of where she was. She could barely breathe, each step closer to the conference room shadowing her with dread. When she entered, the team greeted her with a mix of empathy and professionalism. The doctor, a kind-faced man in his 50s, glanced up from the clipboard. "Sarah, thank you for coming in on such short notice. We have good news about the potential donor." His voice trailed off, and Sarah's pulse quickened. "Can you tell me more?" she asked, her eyes flashing with hope. That he nodded, explaining the viability of the match. Meanwhile, her mind raced with questions. What is the donor's medical history? Will this be safe for Jake? What are the chances? Each inquiry revealed more layers of a daunting decision. The doctor patiently answered, but every detail weighed heavily on her, yet there was something that kept gnawing at her, a feeling that hadn't come to light until now. What is the catch? She asked suddenly, her voice soft but firm. The doctor looked at her with concern. This is a genuine match, but we need to act fast. There will be extensive tests, and we will also have to communicate with the donor's family. If they agree, then we can proceed. The heart in Sarah's chest hammered loudly. She could almost hear Jake's voice echoing in her mind, full of hope, pushing her to seize this opportunity. But the thought of risking everything brought tears to her eyes. Would she be stepping into a path laden with disappointment? Back at home, Sarah felt an urgency to talk with Jake. She knew she had to prepare him for the news, for the roller coaster ride ahead. She found him lying on the couch, flipping through channels, looking tired yet hopeful. "Hey, sweetie." She sat down beside him, taking a moment to gather her words. "I want to talk to you about something important." Jake turned to her, his expression shifting from casual to concerned. Those clear blue eyes searched hers, and in that moment, she felt the weight of her decision. "Mom, is everything okay? You look worried." The concern in his voice broke her heart anew. As she opened her mouth to speak the truth, her heart raced. The deal was not just about a match, it was about managing their hopes, fears, and the precious bond they shared. Jake needed to know it was okay to feel scared. "Jake, there is a possibility of a transplant," she said slowly, gauging his reaction. "But it comes with a lot of uncertainties and risks." She watched as his face lit up, then dimmed again, grappling with the reality of what it might mean. "Do we know who it is?" he asked, excitement tinged with apprehension. "Not yet," she admitted. "But we're going to find out together." As Sarah and Jake talked through the night, the uncertainty ahead loomed like a storm cloud, but the connection they shared shone through that darkness. Just as they reached a moment of resolve, the phone rang again. This time, it was the hospital with more information. Sarah's heart sank as she answered. What if this call changed everything again? Would they finally find the answers they desperately sought, or would hope slip through their fingers once more? The voice on the other end was steady, almost clinical. "Sarah, thank you for answering. We have some important updates regarding the potential donor." Each word felt like a drumbeat, amplifying the anxious thumping in her chest. She glanced over at Jake, who had muted the television and was now leaning forward, a palpable tension prickling the air. "Okay. I'm listening," Sarah replied, her breath steady despite the fear creeping in. "There's been a complication. The donor's family has been notified, but they have some questions before they give their consent. We'll need to arrange a meeting with them to address their concerns." "Questions?" Sarah repeated, the word tasting like bitter fruit. "What kind of questions?" Her mind spiraled with worry. Would they reconsider? Did they have doubts about Jake's condition? Every scenario flashed before her, dark and foreboding. Mainly about the procedure and the risks involved. They want to ensure their loved one's decision is being honored properly. "I'm sure you understand that they want to be thorough." "Of course," she said quietly. The weight of it all pressed heavily against her chest. "Do you have a time for when this meeting could happen?" "As soon as we can arrange it. I'll call you with more details shortly." The call ended abruptly, leaving Sarah frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear. Jake shifted beside her. "Mom. What did they say?" His voice was soft but edged with anxiety. They need to talk to the donor's family. The truth felt sharp on her tongue. They want to make sure everything is clear. It might take a little longer. He nodded slowly, processing her words. The flicker of hope she had seen moments ago seemed to dim, like a candle threatened by the wind. She wished she could shield him from this storm. "I just want to know if it's going to happen, Mom," he said, a tremor in his voice. "I'm tired of waiting." She reached over to take his hand, squeezing it tightly. "Me too, Jake. But we need to be patient. This is so important. They want to make sure we do everything right." Jake's eyes, usually so vibrant, looked glassy now. What if they say no? What if this can't happen? There was a vulnerability in his voice that made her heart crack a little. "Then we keep fighting," she said fiercely, her voice firm despite the doubt crashing against her heart. "You hear me? We won't stop. I want to let this be the end of hope." He took a deep breath, slow and steady. "Okay, Mom. I trust you." In that moment, she saw a glimpse of the boy who fought his illness with bright determination, a spark not dimmed by uncertainty, but instead a drive pushing him forward. After a long pause, Jake said, "Can we watch that old movie tonight? The one with the superheroes?" "Of course," she replied. "Let me get some snacks and get cozy. We need some distractions." As they settled down on the couch, the old movie played in the background, but their minds were elsewhere, both wondering what the meeting with the donor's family would bring. Time crept on. An hour felt like a day. Every ring of the phone pulled their full attention, but it was nothing but distant sounds of life outside. Just then, the soft glow of Sarah's phone lit up. That familiar hospital number stared back at her. The moment of truth, again. Would this be news that brought them closer to the hope they desperately sought? Would they finally take that next step? As she swallowed hard and answered, she could only wonder, was this the moment they had been waiting for, or would it be yet another hurdle in a race that felt never-ending? "Sarah?" The voice on the other end was calmer than she had anticipated, yet it carried a weight. "Dr. Collins," she answered, gripping the couch with her free hand, her heart racing. "What's the news? I appreciate your patience. We've managed to set up a meeting with the donor's family. It'll happen this Thursday at 3 in the afternoon." "Thursday," she repeated, her thoughts racing. "That's just 2 days away." "Yes. I understand it's short notice, but it's the soonest we could arrange. You and Jake will need to prepare. They have a lot of questions." "Of course. We'll be ready," Sarah replied, her mind already working through the possible conversations, responses, and feelings that would emerge during that meeting. "Remember, Sarah, honesty is paramount. Share your story, your love, and Jake's fight. That connection might help them see how important this is." She nodded, though he couldn't see her. "I will. Thank you, Dr. Collins. We really appreciate this." As she hung up, the phone slipped from her fingers and landed softly on the couch. The world around her felt both surreal and achingly real all at once. Jake's gaze was fixed on her, full of hope. Did they say yes? He leaned in, eyes wide, searching her face for a clue. "No," she began slowly, "but they agreed to meet with us." Jake let out a breath, a mix of relief and lingering anxiety. "Does that mean are they thinking about it?" "Yes, honey. It means they're considering it, and it could lead to a yes. We just have to show them how much this means to us." He nodded, but she could see the worry still etched on his brow. "What if they don't like us? What if they think I'm not worth it?" His words were quiet but cut deeply. "Jake, listen to me." She sank down next to him, looking him directly in the eye. "You are worth everything. Your fight, your spirit, these are what matter. They need to see the boy I see every day. The one who laughs and dreams and fights. You have to let that light shine through." "Okay," he whispered, squeezing her hand tighter, as if drawing strength from her words. She couldn't help but smile, but underneath that smile was a layer of fear. Would their vulnerability sway the donor's family? Would their hearts be moved? "Let us do something special tomorrow to remind us of the good things," Sarah suggested, trying to lift the mood. "How about we make our famous pancake breakfast?" Jake's face brightened, a flicker of hope sparking back to life. "With chocolate chips?" "Of course. How could I forget?" She chuckled, her own heart warming at the thought of a small moment of joy. "And an extra scoop of whipped cream. Sounds like a plan." The next day arrived too soon, an avalanche of anticipation weighing them down. They started their morning with pancake batter and laughter swirling around the kitchen. For a brief moment, everything felt normal, like a snapshot of idyllic family life. They shared stories, joking about toppings, relishing small victories. But as Thursday approached, unease settled in. When the day finally came, they drove to the hospital, every mile heavier with trepidation. The building loomed like a fortress ahead of them, where hopes and fears intertwined. "Do you think they like me?" Jake asked, his small voice breaking through her thoughts. "They love you," she assured him, feeling a pang in her heart as her son's insecurities spilled forth. "Just be yourself. Remember, you're brave, and they need to see that." Jake nodded, but uncertainty lingered in his eyes. They finally entered the meeting room, where the air felt charged with that familiar tension. As they settled in, she took a deep breath, ready to open up her heart, but even as she prepared to speak, she felt the universe shift around them. What lay ahead could be a turning point in their lives, one that would either fill their lives with light or plunge them deeper into shadows. As they waited, she couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change in ways they could never predict. Sarah's heart quickened as she glanced around the sterile meeting room, its walls painted a muted gray that carried echoes of countless stories unfolding. Her eyes settled on a small table in the center, where a framed picture of a smiling girl rested, so full of life, so impossibly vibrant. She felt a tightening in her chest. This was all too real. Moments crawled by. She could feel Jake's small hand slip into hers, his warmth a balm against her mounting anxiety. The door slid open, and in walked the donor's family. There were three of them, a man who looked tired, a woman with eyes that seemed to harbor all the weight of loss, and a teenage boy who wore a mask of apprehension. "Hello," Sarah said softly, her voice trembling slightly. "Hi," the woman replied, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for coming." Jake squeezed Sarah's hand, and she could sense his heartbeat echoing in her palm. She took a steadying breath, summoning her courage. "Thank you for meeting with us." They all took a seat, the air heavy with unspoken words. Sarah could see the flicker of uncertainty in the eyes of the family, all of them grappling with their own pain, memories of loss still fresh. The man spoke first, his voice rough like gravel. "We just want to understand, to know more about Jake. What he has been through, how this affects you both." As Sarah began to share their journey, recounting her son's fevered nights and endless medical procedures, she felt the tension slowly begin to dissolve. She could see Jake shifting in his seat, his eyes brightening as she revealed moments of joy mixed in with their struggles, the time he rode his bike for the first time, the laughter over pancake breakfasts, the small wins that made the battles bearable. "Mom," Jake interjected suddenly, his small voice breaking through the haze of emotions, "I'm not just sick. I'm a good kid. I like video games and I want to be an astronaut one day." The laughter broke the weight in the room. The woman across from him blinked back tears, a smile tugging at her lips. "You would make a great astronaut. You'd get to see the stars. I want to sleep in zero gravity." Jake beamed, and Sarah couldn't help but swell with pride. The conversation continued, ebbing and flowing like the tide. They talked about hopes, fears, and dreams. The woman shared her memories of her daughter, her voice laced with sorrow but also gratitude. She loved life so much. "I want something good to come from her passing." As Sarah listened, she felt a shared connection, a bond forged through love and loss. It felt raw, unfiltered, but somehow healing. Just as the tension seemed to lift, a somber stillness settled in again. The man's eyes softened as he turned to Jake. "What would you do if we said yes to a transplant?" "I'd ride my bike again," Jake answered simply. "And maybe we could play video games together." A glimmer of something hopeful flickered, but the air grew thick once more as the reality loomed. This decision was monumental. "Jake," Sarah started, trying to find the right words. "We trust you. We believe in you. And we will support whatever." But before she could finish, the woman reached out, placing her hand over Jake's small one. "You are so brave," and no matter what happens, the moment hung in the air, charged with emotion. Everyone knew that this meeting could shift their lives forever. Choices piled on choices, all of them interconnected. "Will you have room in your heart for us?" the man finally asked, his voice trembling slightly. There was something unspoken, a question lingering. They all sensed the weight of it, hearts simultaneously racing and aching. Would the answer be yes? Jake's bright eyes flickered between the faces surrounding him, hope and curiosity mixing in his small yet incredibly strong spirit. But just as Sarah opened her mouth to speak again, the lights flickered overhead, a brief moment of uncertainty that mirrored their own. What would the answer be? What awaited them on the other side of this pivotal moment? As they braced themselves for the next words, Sarah felt the atmosphere shift, like a breath held tightly before release. Tension hung in the air, thick as molasses. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears. The moment seemed to stretch indefinitely. She glanced at Jake, who was looking back with wide, trusting eyes. His innocence swirled with the gravity of the situation. "Will you have room in your heart for us?" The man's voice trembled, a plea shrouded in heartbreak and hope. A heavy silence settled again. Sarah felt the weight of their collective gaze like a warm blanket squeezing tighter. This was not just about medical procedures or survival, this was about lives, futures, and the bittersweet intertwining of grief and gratitude. "Jake," she finally said, searching for the strength to guide this monumental decision. "What do you think?" He furrowed his brow, deep in thought. I want to be brave," he whispered, his voice barely above a hush, "but it's also really scary." Tears pricked Sarah's eyes. How could a child hold such understanding? It hurt her to see him weighed down by such thoughts. But his courage sparked something in her. "After everything we've been through," she said gently, "your bravery shines brightest in these moments. You can be brave and scared at the same time. That doesn't make you any less courageous." The teenage boy blurted out, "If it were my sister, I'd want someone to do it for her." The quiet honesty in his voice filled Sarah with warmth. This family understood loss deep down, so painfully intertwined with hope. The woman drew in a shaky breath, her composure threatening to break. "Our daughter would have loved to help people. She had a heart of gold." Her hand squeezed her husband's tightly. "I know she's watching over us right now. We've all lost something, but together, we could gain so much." Sarah nodded slowly, feeling the connection rippling through the room. This was about more than just a transplant, it was about a shared legacy. Life and death, intertwined in an unexpected yet beautiful way. "Mom," Jake spoke up again, his voice steadier now. "I think we should try. For the stars, and so I can ride my bike again." His words cascaded across the room, carrying an infectious optimism. The tension began to unravel, weaving threads of shared humanity together. I think that's a wise choice, buddy." Sarah's voice trembled as the reality of what they were considering settled in. "It's a brave step forward, one filled with love." The man nodded solemnly, his eyes glistening. "We find strength in each other. If you're willing, we can make this happen." It's what she would have wanted. With those words, something shifted in Sarah. The gravity of the decision, the burden she had carried lightened a fraction. The backdrop of loss faded slowly, replaced by the spark of potential. As they exchanged words of gratitude, tears began to flow freely, but not just from sadness, they were a mix of relief and renewed hope. They were all on the precipice of a new path. But just when it felt like they had come to a mutual understanding, a sudden commotion outside the conference room caught everyone's attention. The door burst open, and a nurse rushed in, her face pale and urgent. "Excuse me, we need to talk about Jake's current status." An unexpected wave of confusion crashed over the room, scattering the fragile moment they had begun to build. Sarah's heart dropped. What could possibly be the new twist in their already tangled tale? "Wait, what is going on?" she stammered, feeling panic rise again. Jake looked up at her, confusion shadowing his features. The air that had just become lighter now flooded with uncertainty once more. Sarah's world tilted on its axis, a mix of fear and determination swirling within her. Answers felt just out of reach, and with the stakes now higher than ever, what new challenges lay ahead for her and Jake? The nurse's presence sucked the air from the room, the words she spoke sending vibrations of dread through Sarah's body. "Jake's blood markers have changed. We need to reassess if he is still a candidate for the procedure." A million questions raced through Sarah's mind. Blood markers? What did that mean? She grasped Jake's hand tightly, feeling the familiar warmth of his little fingers caught in hers. His innocent trust was unwavering, but panic flickered in his eyes. "Mom, what does that mean?" Jake asked softly, his voice trembling ever so slightly. Sarah forced a smile, determination masking her fear. She turned to the nurse. "What do we need to do? What is happening to him?" The nurse took a breath, steadying herself. "We need to take some more blood tests and possibly adjust his treatment to see if his body can stabilize. It's not uncommon for this to happen, but we need to act quickly. I don't want to be stuck here." "I want to help them," Jake exclaimed, his voice slightly more anxious. The nurse offered a kind smile. "And we will, Jake. This is just a bump in the road. You're strong. We just need to make sure you're in the best shape possible before anything happens." A bump in the road. That phrase echoed in Sarah's brain, a reminder that bumps didn't have to be setbacks, they could be gateways to something better. "Okay, we can do this," she said, strengthening her resolve. She glanced at the couple across the room, their hopeful expressions dimming under this new weight. "We will figure this out together." "We will be right here," the man replied, his voice steady despite the chaos. "We believe in you, Jake. Just focus on being you. Your strength shines brightest in times like this." As the nurse moved to gather the necessary supplies, Sarah wrapped her arms around Jake, pulling him close. He obviously needed her reassurance. "Look at me, buddy," she said, wiping a tear away from her cheek. "You're going to be okay. We'll fight this together, I promise." Jake blinked up at her, his gaze unwavering. "I can be brave, right?" "Absolutely," she whispered, brushing back his hair. "Bravery isn't just about being fearless, it's about facing what scares you." With each heartbeat, the fear locked inside her chest felt a little less suffocating. She could do this, she had to. Moments later, the nurse returned, and the two of them settled into the routine of tests. Sarah held Jake's hand the entire time, offering comforting squeezes and soft murmurs of encouragement. With every needle prick, each passing second, she prayed for strength for both herself and her son. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the nurse returned with results. "Jake, good news, your numbers have stabilized, but we need to keep observing." Relief washed over Sarah like a cool breeze. Suddenly, the earlier potential felt tangible again. The possibility of a new beginning shimmered just ahead, even in the haze of uncertainty. She could feel it now. Their fight was far from over, but they had each other. "See?" she said, smiling down at Jake. "You're even more powerful than you thought. We're going to make it. Do you think I can ride my bike soon?" he asked, hope lighting up his eyes. "Sooner than you think," she replied, and in that moment, everything felt like it was starting to align. Just then, the couple, filled with their own mix of hope and anxiety, stepped forward again. "We believe in you both," the woman said, desperation intertwined with admiration in her voice. Our lives are tied together now, and we will stand by you, whatever happens. Yet even as comfort settled in, a doctor's voice echoed through the hallway, announcing potential complications with the transplant schedule. The energy shifted again, strings of fear intertwining with the hope they had just begun to build. Sarah inhaled deeply, trying to stay present. What awaited them next? Would they really be able to push through the uncertainty and complications together? In that moment of heavy anticipation, she realized one truth burned brightly in her heart: they were all fighters in their own personal battles, ready to discover just what their connection would mean in the end. But even as they steeled themselves for the next chapter, the tremor of an approaching storm crackled in the air. What would this next challenge reveal? The waiting room felt like a pressure cooker, every heartbeat mechanically punctuating the anxious silence. Sarah's heart raced as she glanced at the clock. Each tick seemed to amplify her worry. Jake sat beside her, playing with a small toy truck, his focus surprisingly unwavering despite the heaviness that hung in the air. Mom. Jake's voice sliced through her thoughts, soft and still a bit shaky. Will they be okay? He glanced up, his eyes reflecting his uncertainty. Everyone will be okay. Let us just take it one step at a time, Sarah replied, forcing optimism into her words, even as she felt more like an actor than a mother, delivering lines she wasn't sure she believed. Just then, the doctor entered, his expression ambiguous. Sarah's heart sank. This was the moment they had been waiting for, but the tension in the room felt insurmountable. Jake, he started, kneeling to meet the child's gaze, I have some news. The way he phrased it made Sarah's gut twist. She felt the air shift around her. Your blood tests have improved a lot, which is wonderful. However, we need to see how your body copes over the next few hours before we can confirm that you're ready for the transplant. Is it a big deal? Jake asked, his small voice unwaveringly brave. A few more tests to be sure, but it's not something to worry about. You're doing so well, and you've got the best support here, the doctor replied, offering a reassuring smile. Sarah reached for Jake's hand, squeezing it gently, letting him know they were in this together. She felt a small wave of relief, but the underlying dread still churned in her heart. What now? She whispered to the doctor. We'll keep monitoring him. Let us move forward with the additional tests. As the doctor walked away, Sarah turned to face the couple again. Their eyes communicated a shared sense of hope and fear, the kind that only those fighting the same battle could understand. They say improvement is a good sign, she managed, her voice tremulous with cautious optimism. The woman nodded. Yes, we can hold on to that, she said with a hint of steely determination. We all have our battles, don't we? Jake looked at them, his innocent face framed in confusion. What's a battle? He asked, his brows furrowing slightly. It's just a fancy way of saying we're all trying to survive tough times, Sarah chimed in, brushing her fingers through Jake's hair soothingly. But together, we can be stronger, she added. You're stronger than you think, buddy, the man from the couple said, giving Jake a warm smile. It's about believing in yourself. Jake nodded, his spirit visibly buoyed by their words. But just as hope began to re-establish itself, an announcement buzzed through the intercom, announcing complications with another patient. Sarah's heart dropped again. She could feel the weight of dread creeping back in. Mom. Jake's small voice pulled her back. What if I'm not strong enough? You are strong. She exclaimed, harder than she intended, her eyes glistening with tears. You're the strongest person I know. Every time you smile, every time you push through a hard day I see your strength. He bit his lip, looking both comforted and uncertain. What if it goes wrong? The truth hung between them. We can't know what the future holds. But what I do know is that we won't face it alone. We have each other, and that is everything, she replied, her own heart steadying with renewed conviction. Just then, a mysterious nurse entered, her smile calm and reassuring. Jake, ready for another round of tests? We're going to check on your magic numbers again. Jake's eyes sparkled with a flicker of excitement. Magic? Yes, your magic numbers will help us see how strong you really are, she said, and it made him giggle. As they began moving towards the next room for Jake's tests, Sarah glanced back at the couple. Their eyes searched hers for reassurance. She gave them a slight nod, her heart swelling with a mix of hope and determination. They were all in this together, after all, but as they neared the door, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something unexpected was about to unfold. Would they be ready for whatever surprising twist life threw at them next? What else awaited in this fight for Jake's future? The room where the tests were done was bright, almost too bright, with the fluorescent lights buzzing softly above. Jake was perched on the edge of the examination bed, swinging his small legs back and forth as a nurse prepped the equipment. Sarah watched, her heart racing again, uncertainties swirling like autumn leaves in the wind. Okay, Jake, we're just going to take a little more blood, alright? The nurse said with a playful smile, trying to ease the tension that clung to the room like fog. Is it going to hurt? Jake asked, his voice wavering slightly. Just a little pinch, like a quick tickle. You can handle it, right? She glanced at Sarah, who gave a reassuring nod, her heart heavy yet hopeful. Yeah. I can do it. Jake declared, his determination sparking a light in her chest. As the nurse prepared, Jake looked around the room, his gaze landing on colorful cartoons plastered on the wall. Those cartoons look funny, he said, pointing. It was an unexpected shift that made Sarah smile, even if just for a moment. Like superheroes. Jake continued, his adventurous nature coming alive. Exactly. Just like you, a little hero in training, the nurse said, inserting the needle skillfully. Jake flinched but quickly squeezed his eyes shut, biting his lip while he waited for it to be over. Sarah felt a lump in her throat, it was hard to watch. Her instinct was to swoop in, to lift him up from the discomfort, but she hesitated, knowing this moment was about resilience. Deep down, that was what she needed him to learn. After what felt like an eternity, the nurse pulled back the needle and flashed a warm smile. All done. You did amazing. Jake opened his eyes, relief washing over his face. It didn't hurt that much at all. He beamed, and Sarah felt a surge of pride. See? Just a little tickle, she echoed, grinning. A wave of shared triumph filled the room, lightening the heaviness that had settled there. While the nurse logged the information, Sarah couldn't shake that looming uncertainty. Will we know soon? She asked, her voice soft yet urgent. Yes, they'll be processing the results right away, the nurse replied, her tone professional but bright. You can wait in the lounge while we get everything sorted. More tests are coming, but we'll keep you posted. Jake jumped down from the bed, adjusting the small toy truck he had placed in his pocket, ready for action again. Can we go get some juice? He asked, his excitement bubbling over. Sure, buddy. Let's take a break, Sarah said, grateful for this small joy. They walked hand in hand, deeper into the hospital, the sterile scent of antiseptic fading a little as they wandered toward the cafeteria. Jake chattered on about superheroes, how he imagined a superhero who could heal sick kids with just a touch. Sarah looked down at him, captivated by his innocent hope. What would you name that hero? She prodded. Super Jake. He exclaimed, puffing out his chest with pride. Super Jake, she repeated, feeling warmth spread through her chest. I love that name. But as they turned a corner, the sound of hurried footsteps shot through the hallway, pulling Sarah's attention away. A nurse rushed past them, her expression frantic. Sarah's gut twisted. Instinctively, she tightened her grip on Jake's hand. Is everything okay, Mom? Jake asked, noticing her sudden change. She forced a smile, but her heart raced ahead, echoing the urgency she felt in the air. Yes, sweetie. Just another busy day. But deep down, she feared it wasn't just any day. As they entered the cafeteria, the sounds of clattering dishes and laughter surrounded them, but Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that either a breakthrough or a setback lay just ahead. The weight of uncertainty loomed large. "Mom." Jake's small voice filled the space. "What if Super Jake has to face something really scary?" A silence clawed at Sarah's chest. She knelt down to his level, searching for the right words. "Then Super Jake will fight, and he won't do it alone. He'll have his team, just like we do." But inside, she felt the shadows creeping in, wondering how much longer they could fight. Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her from her thoughts. When she looked at the screen, her heart dropped. It was a message from the doctor. What could it say? What was coming next? The anxiety surged again as she stared at the phone, feeling the world around her fade into silence. Would it bring news of hope, or a drastic turn in their journey? With a shaky breath, she opened the message, and the future stretched before her, teetering on the edge of fear and hope. As Sarah read the message, her heart raced with a whirlwind of emotions. The words on the screen blurred as tears sprang to her eyes. The doctor's message was clear, yet heavy. They had found the match, but it was tentative. The donor's family was in emotional turmoil, struggling with their own loss, and needed time to reach a decision. "Mom?" Jake asked softly, feeling the shift in her energy. "What's wrong?" Sarah quickly wiped away the moisture gathering in her eyes, forcing a smile. "Nothing we can't handle, buddy." Yet, inside, she felt a storm brewing. They had battled through so much, but now they were standing at another precipice, teetering between hope and despair. "Let us go back to the room," she said, her heart pounding. As they walked, she felt the weight of the universe pressing down on her. She needed to be strong for Jake. For the family of the donor. Once they entered the waiting area, Sarah felt the air shift as the couple with the donor approached them. Their expressions were somber but resolute. "Can we talk?" the man asked gently. "Of course," Sarah replied, heart racing as they all found a quiet corner. Jake sat on her knee, glancing between the adults, his youthful innocence shining brightly amidst the tension. "Are we going to be friends?" he piped up, his voice breaking the heaviness. The woman smiled softly, a look of warmth passing between her and Jake. "Friends always find each other in hard times," she replied, the words resonating like a calming balm. Sarah took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "What's on your mind?" she ventured. The man spoke, his tone filled with empathy. "We've had a tough few days back home. It's gut-wrenching to think about making this decision. We want to honor our daughter's legacy, but we also have fears." Sarah's heart ached for them. "I understand. This decision isn't easy for any of us. But we believe in Jake's strength. He dreams of riding his bike again and looking at stars. He has so much life ahead of him," she said, her voice filled with certainty. The damn walls of the woman's resolve began to crack. "Our daughter wanted to help others," she confessed, voice trembling. "She had a heart of gold. Just this morning, I found a note she wrote about being a hero." Jake perked up. "Like Super Jake?" he exclaimed, beaming with enthusiasm. The mention of heroes brightened the room, the burden of loss momentarily uplifting. The woman drew in a shaky breath, glancing at her husband, whose eyes sparkled with something deeper understanding. "That's brave. Just like our daughter. We want to believe she would want us to honor that heroism through you." The air shifted again, and Sarah could feel the ripples of uncertainty giving way to hope. It took Sarah a moment to find her voice. "Then let us keep this conversation going. With every word, we can honor her memory together. We're all in this quest for connection, hope, and healing." The family nodded, united by both sorrow and hope. They shared stories, laughs, and moments that humanized their pain and broke down the barriers between them. Hours passed with discussions filled with laughter and tears, all weaving their hearts together. When the time came for the family to leave, promises of phone calls and updates lingered in the air. In the midst of their departure, the woman turned to Jake. "You're a hero, Super Jake. Remember, bravery comes in many forms." With a radiant smile, Jake replied, "I want to be a hero for everyone." As the door clicked shut behind them, a renewed energy wrapped around Sarah and Jake. Sarah pulled him close, laughter bubbling in her chest. "You were amazing, buddy. Your spirit shines bright." But that night, sleep didn't come easily for Sarah. Thoughts of unresolved questions danced in her mind. Was the match truly going to happen? Could they navigate the complexities of hope and despair together? In the darkness, she realized something deeply profound. Their journey was not just about a medical procedure but a tapestry of human connections. Despair transformed into hope, days turned into a week, and the wait continued. Each murmur of news from the doctor filled Sarah and Jake with flickers of disbelief and hope. Then, one sunny afternoon, the hospital rang. When Sarah picked up the phone, there was silence, as if the world held its breath. "Sarah, it's Dr. Collins. We've discussed with the donor's family, and they've made a decision." Sarah's heart raced, fingers trembling as she held the phone. "What did they say?" "They said yes." The words echoed in her mind, washing over her like a warm wave of relief. Tears of joy cascaded down her cheeks. "Thank you. Thank you so much," she gasped, choking back a sob. "Prepare for the next steps. This is your chance. Jake!" she shouted joyfully, rushing to the couch where he sat, eyes wide with concern. "They said yes." He jumped off the couch, a radiant smile spreading across his face. "Really? I'm going to ride my bike again and be Super Jake." "Absolutely." Sarah hugged him tightly, feeling like they were finally free of the shackles of uncertainty. From that moment on, they dove wholeheartedly into preparations for the transplant. The community buzzed with excitement, donations poured in, and warmth flooded into their lives. They became the heroes of Maplewood, a small town rising to the call of compassion, fighting not only for Jake but also creating bonds that transcended grief. As the day of the transplant approached, Sarah and Jake stood hand in hand at the hospital entrance, their spirits intertwined, each filled with hope and a new future ahead. They stepped inside, ready to embrace every challenge, every moment, with gratitude and love. Their story was only just beginning, unfolding like a beautiful tapestry of resilience and unity. Together, they stood a mother and son, ready to face the world as warriors of hope, embracing the promise of life, love, and the miraculous transformation that lay ahead. And in that magic moment, Sarah whispered to Jake, "We are a team, and nothing can break us." No, nothing could break them. They had fought and transcended fear together, forging unbreakable bonds in a community that had shown its true colors through darkness and light. As they prepared to embark on this life-changing journey, a message rang clear: every life touched, every moment shared, only strengthens the fabric of communities, and reminds us of our collective chance to be heroes for one another. Don't wait any longer. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more hearts. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this inspiring ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. True fans know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions, so take a moment for this powerful community we're building together.